Play ball. Hot off the press, handicappers from WagerTalk, Sports Memo, and the Gold Sheet have collaborated on the 2023 WagerTalk Media MLB Betting Guide. From World Series odds to regular season win totals and everything in between, this year's betting guide features previews on all 30 teams, all 6 divisions, and season-long awards like the Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year. Each preview contains key roster acquisitions and departures to help you get up to speed before opening day. Visit wt.buzz/MLB23 to download your free guide, and we'll see you in the batter's box.
Welcome everybody to Wager Talk Today. I am Lawrence Presman. I'm wearing the smart wool. I'm 45 minutes from the ski hill. He's Teddy Covers, and you're watching the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Much better opening this time around, Teddy. I didn't lose my mind. How are you, bro?
I'm doing just fine, Lawrence. On today's show, Adam Trigger is going to lead us off. And you better believe we're talking big dance. Colgate versus Texas, Memphis versus Florida Atlantic. Adam's going to break down a couple of first-round matchups for us. Brandon Siefkin's going to join us next. He's going to talk some World Baseball Classic. Canada against Mexico, USA against Colombia. My big game breakdown. We'll go to the NBA for tonight and talk some Kings and Bulls. And, of course, Arthur DiCesare will close out the show. We'll get a look from the other side of the counter. Art, of course, race and sports risk management supervisor over at the Westgate Superbook. So we'll get some of Art's thoughts and some of Art's knowledge about what's going on in terms of NCAA tournament betting. And, of course, Lawrence, you'll have your presidential address, but you and I are switching today. You're going to do presidential address first, and then I'll do big game breakdown to close out the show because, Lawrence, I know you've got kids waiting to go skiing. So do what you want to do.
I do. And you know what, dude? You do the art segment so well. Nobody requires me around for the art segment. So I'm going to disappear. I got a house full of children ready to go. They're literally standing at the door. So I'm going to do my presidential address. We normally need 100 likes for my daily presidential address. As it's in the middle of the show, we don't need 100 likes. But I think you guys need to earn Teddy's big game breakdown. So if we get 10 likes, Teddy will do his big game breakdown. Didn't get to go heli skiing yesterday, brother. We've had so much snow in Whistler. It's actually been out of control. It was canceled again, and now the Prez, speaking in third person, will not be going heli skiing on this trip, which is fine. I got another 19 days of skiing ahead of me. So far, I've skied 7 out of 8 days, and I feel great, man. Legs are holding up. Age is holding up. Weather is holding up. I'm ready to go. Adam Trigger joining us. Ad, how are you, man? What's going on?
I'm great, Prez. Tournament's about to start tomorrow. We got a meet and greet on the East Coast that I have to promo before we get into it. If you are on the East Coast, and you can dig yourself out of whatever snow you're under the last couple days, then come out to Turning Stone, Verona, New York. We're all Saturday's the day, but we're going to be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, hanging out at the sportsbook. Myself, CT Betts, Brian Power, Mark Zinno. There's others. There's a bunch of others. Those are just the ones that I know are definitely coming. But we should have a nice group. We're just watching the games, hanging out. Wager Talk's going to have some merch there to give out, some free drinks.
Nice.
So it'll be a good time. Come on down. Hope to see a bunch of you there.
And you're going to be
Prez,
signing
real
autograph?
quick, though, I doubt anyone wants one, but if they do, I will sign one. But Prez, real quick, without a question, West Coast skiing, so much better than East Coast skiing. It's not even close. So I'm glad you're out there having a good time.
Yeah.
Jealous of that.
I mean, West Coast skiing versus East Coast skiing is equivalent to the NBA versus college basketball as far as talent goes. So, yeah. And I never ski on the East Coast, Adam. Never. It's super icy, super
Too
cold.
icy.
And the hill, and the hills aren't. Look, I've obviously skied Smuggler's Notch. I've skied Jay Peak. I've skied Killington, Stowe. I have done it. But that was when I was a broke man in my youth and we needed to drive. Now I don't need to drive. You can hear Vivian in the background making noise, even though she's been told not to during the show. And now she's apologized. I might get some action later. Okay, Ad, let's get straight into it, man. Colgate's playing Texas. It's plus 13.5. The NCAA tournament starts tomorrow. This is a 7:25 p.m. Eastern time game. How do we bet this one, man? Where are you going here?
Prez, I want to be on the dog here. It's the way I lean. I'm going to make a case for them. I haven't given it to clients yet, but it's definitely one I'm strongly considering, and it's one I'm close with. Colgate, another year, another Patriot League title. It seems like they do it every single year, and they pretty much have. I think the only one they didn't win was the year that COVID wiped out the tournament, at least in recent memory, which means all of these kids have been to the tournament more than once. And if you look at Colgate's, we'll start with Colgate's track record in the tournament. It's been pretty good. 3 or 4 years ago was the Tennessee game. They hung around. They had a big lead on an Arkansas team that kind of is similar to this Texas team. They ended up getting blown out, but I think it's notable that they had a 14-point lead in that game at one point. And then last year they hung around with Wisconsin to cover the number. I had a chance to go to the Patriot League final last week uh, in Hamilton, New York, and I actually got to chat with a couple of the players and the coach after the game. And what I took away from that was this team's very mature. They have upperclassmen, and they're really not going to be okay with just showing up. Like they're not just going to show up and be happy to be there and take their beating and say, you know what, great, we made it to the NCAA tournament. They've already done that. They want to show up and compete. There's seniors on this team that this is going to be their final chance to potentially win one of these games. And I actually think, after talking to Coach Langle, I really think that Colgate believes that they can compete here. He explained to me how their offense works, how they really don't have an offense. They kind of just go out and adapt to what the other team's defense does, which I thought was very interesting. Meaning they're not worried about how Texas is going to defend or what their defense is, because it's very much based on there's 5 quarterbacks on the court that have the ability to call an audible at any time, and it's worked for Colgate. They have the number 1 effective field goal percentage in the country. They're the top 3-point shooting team by percentage in the country, and they move the ball well, and they will get decent shots. Now, the concern here would be kind of what happened to Colgate 2 years ago against Arkansas, and it's the reason I haven't made this a client play yet, where they just end up getting totally out athlete by Texas, because that's really Texas's big advantage here. Texas might be able to just get whatever they want in the paint when any shot they want, and if Texas is converting and specifically Colgate isn't hitting their shots, they could fall behind. So I'll throw 2 plays out here. I think there's going to be points in this game, so I'll throw out a lean to the over, but I really think Colgate can hang around here. I was at the Texas Baylor game a few weeks ago. Baylor was hitting all their threes, and Baylor went on a monster run in that game without Keontae George and ended up blowing Texas out straight up by just hitting outside shot after outside shot. That's what Colgate's going to try to do. They're going to need to get hot from 3, but they can. And even if they go down 20 here, guys, they take and make a lot of threes. So there's absolutely no reason why they can't play this out and come in through that back door. So I really think Colgate is going to give an effort here, and this number's probably too high.
So I'm certainly not going to try to talk you out of Colgate. They're on my short list for the big dance. My plays will come out later today, and we'll see if that makes the list or not. But my biggest concern with Colgate is probably the fact, my question about their ability to step up in class. They've been favored in every single game since December 2nd. December 2nd, they were at Auburn. They lost 93-66 at plus 13, and that's one of only 2 times all year they've been underdogs. Hasn't Colgate's statistical profile, based on the fact that they haven't played anyone, and is their statistical profile making them an overvalued commodity here? We haven't seen this team step up in class and fare well.
Yeah, Teddy, certainly not really this year. I mean, obviously you referenced the Auburn game, which is a good point. And they got killed in that game. You go back to last year, they competed with Wisconsin in the NCAA tournament, and years prior where they've had, they have beat Syracuse back-to-back years for what it's worth. I don't know that that's a real step up in class, but they do have some decent performances against good teams. A good game with Vermont earlier this year. Again, not like a step up in class, but they have played some decent teams. Where I think Colgate gets hurt a little bit in the analytics is the fact that the Patriot League is pretty down this year. Outside of them, there really wasn't another big competitor. Like in years past, it was Boston University. To give that league a little credibility, it didn't have it. So I would almost say that like Colgate's probably a very good 15 seed for what we're typically used to seeing on the 15 line. And I think another reason for that is a lot of these one seeds went out and won their conference tournament. The Vermonts, the Charlestons, there's a bunch of others, but like I think this team probably could have been a 13 or a 14, but got knocked down the pecking order by the fact that Iona, like teams like that, all won their conferences this year. So unfortunately, they run into a really good, really athletic Texas team that I think could potentially win this whole thing. But it's one of those first round games. Teddy, you and I talked off camera a little bit. Texas just made a big run to win their conference tournament. They could come out a little flat here. It's very possible. And Colgate might be ready for that. I do think this number is a little too big. And I like the over as well. I think there's going to be points. So leans here to Colgate and the over.
Adam Trigger joining us, everyone. You can find him at WagerTalk.com, exclusive handicapper to us. And you could probably find him in the stands of some college basketball game because that seems
Sunday.
to be what you've been doing. Which game are you going to?
I will be at the Albany games on Sunday. So it'll be the winner of UConn Iona against the winner of St. Mary's VCU, and then the winner of Drake Miami against the winner of Indiana Kent State. So I'll be at those games on Sunday afternoon or night, whenever.
Brilliant. So if anyone wants to see Adam outside of the meet and greet, just head over to those games. Add Florida Atlantic. It's a Friday game. They are plus 1.5 against Memphis, a total of 153.5. How are you betting this game?
Yeah, so this is a client play for me. 4% play. I gave this out earlier in the week. Got a nice number. Florida Atlantic plus 2.5. There are probably still twos out there, but I do think this is heading toward 1.5. I wouldn't even be surprised to see this go down to 1. I have it as closer to a pick. And I think Florida Atlantic's the better of these two teams. I think Memphis is getting a little too much credit for the Houston win and the fact they got hot in their conference tournament. Now, Florida Atlantic won theirs as well. But Memphis, of course, comes off with a win over Houston, which I think needs to be taken with a grain of salt. Marcus Sasser doesn't play. I don't know how engaged Houston was in that game. But I really think, actually, both of these teams have played really well down the stretch. We talked about Florida Atlantic winning their conference tournament, beating UAB. And I guess what it comes down to here is you have two teams that are very good, that defend extremely well. But I think Florida Atlantic has the better path to victory over Memphis here. Specifically, Memphis will give up the 3-point shot. Florida Atlantic can make the 3. And they're also very disciplined, and they shoot good shots and hit them at a very high percentage. They're in the top 30 nationally, 3-point shooting. They're in the top 25 nationally in field goal percentage. So this is a veteran team who really has 5 guys, any of which can be the guy. They don't really look to, it's not going to be like a Memphis situation where they really look to Davis to be that sort of, game changer. There's 5 guys that all on Florida Atlantic, any can be the guy on any given day. I like how that profile is a little bit better. I actually think Florida Atlantic has an advantage inside here in the paint where I could see them getting easier buckets while also taking away the lane for Memphis and turning Memphis into a little bit of a shooting team, which is less what Memphis wants to do. So there's just more ways that I see Florida Atlantic winning here. And for that reason, Teddy, I didn't think they should be underdogs. So I took the 2.5 for my clients. I see it trending toward pick, but I still like the Owls here. I just think they're a better team. I can't believe I was betting against this team earlier in the year. Shame on me for that. I came around on this Florida Atlantic team. I thankfully stopped doing that, and now I'm going to back them. I think they win this first round.
So here's my question for you. How come Florida Atlantic hasn't gotten any hype? They had the longest winning streak in the country. They won, I finished 28-3, and yet they're a team, like a lot of times you see a quality mid-major start to get some buzz as they win game after game after game and cover point spread after point spread after point spread. It's like FAU got none of that this year. Any idea why?
Teddy, my only guess is that they're in the Conference USA, and for whatever reason, I feel like this happens every single year with Conference USA. They just get lost in the shuffle. They're in that weird, like, middling, like they're not really a mid-major. They're not really mid-majors, but they're not the high majors either. They're like one of those, like, they have football teams, so they don't really get like the buzz that like a mid-major does when they get really hot and go on a run, like a Charleston, for example. But they're not, they're not high majors either. So like they typically, like, I look at these two conferences, I don't think the AAC top to bottom was that much better than Conference USA. Like, you look at Conference USA, there's some really good teams in there. North Texas, UAB. There's some quality teams in that conference. You go over to the AAC, obviously Houston goes without saying, they're one of the best teams in the country. But you start to get down the list in the AAC, it's not very good. East Carolina, South Florida, like there's some bad teams in that conference. So to answer your question, I don't really have a good answer for it other than I feel like we see this every single year. The Conference USA just gets kind of lost in the shuffle. And if you go back in previous tournaments, Conference USA is typically a little bit undervalued. Like, there's years where, Middle Tennessee had a nice win as a big dog one year. UAB has had good runs in the conference tournament out of this conference. So I just think Conference USA gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. And I think that's the deal with Florida Atlantic. They don't get as much TV time. They're just not as big of a name as Memphis. And I think that's probably why they're an underdog on a neutral floor here, because I really do feel that the Owls are the better team.
There you go, Adam Trigger. 2 college basketball games. What do you got to promote? What's going on in your world?
Yeah, so I've got a bunch of stuff up, guys. I have a 5% college basketball play that'll go in the round of 64. That's one of the NCAA tournament games. I went 2-0 in the NIT last night. I'm now 25-9 on my last 34 college basketball plays, so on a really nice run. I've got another NIT selection that goes tonight. And I'll have, plays all weekend. So check out, I believe all the handicappers have the March Madness special up. So check that out. And if you want the full year, I do believe coupon code TRIG365 is still active. I think that'll be active for the rest of this week. That'll be on the annual all access. You get everything: baseball, college, football, and then of course college basketball going into next season. And guys, if you are in upstate New York this weekend or want to just come out, take a ride and watch the games with us, we'll be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The WagerTalk Day is Saturday. But if you're in town Thursday or Friday, shoot me a DM. We'd love to see you. So come hang out. And we'll have a good time.
Adam Trigger, one last question, brother. Super important. It's actionable information. Evan McCowan wants to know what product you put in your hair.
It is, I think it's called ribbon. I have to go look at that. I think it's like something that my the guy that I grew up with that's been cutting my hair for years has at his place, and I've been using it forever.
There you go, Adam Trigger, everyone. Teddy Covers, tell us what we learned in sports betting last night.
Well, let's talk about what we learned last night. So, when your wife asks you to do something a couple months in the future and you're like, okay, and then you kind of forget about it?
Yeah, every day of my life.
Amazing hoof tonight, but apparently I agreed to go to Frozen at the Smith Center with my wife and son several months ago. At least it wasn't the opening day of the dance, but still.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, that's not something that I'm excited about for tonight, but we'll do it. Talked about NIT and what bettors learned yesterday, and I did get one thing wrong. I wanted to correct it. I didn't realize prior to the tournament. The Final Four is here in Las Vegas. I didn't even know that. It's been at Madison Square Garden forever, but it's here in Vegas this year. I'll talk about it at the end, NIT a little bit again today. We have 8 games more tonight. And look what happened last night. Wisconsin-Bradley, home favorite, wins and covers. Vandy-Yale, home favorite, wins and covers. Liberty-Nova, home favorite, wins and covers. Michigan-Toledo, home favorite, wins and covers. UAB-Southern Miss, home favorite, wins and covers. Rutgers did lose to Houston. Outright true. But let's not forget, Rutgers was up 5 with 30 seconds left in regulation. One Hofstra miss, and they're fouling, and Rutgers wins and covers. So it could have easily been 6-0 for the early games with the home favorites winning and covering. Dogs got in late, with Seton Hall, Colorado, Eastern Washington, Washington State. But it's definitely worth noting the early trend this year. A lot of these sharp moves where the wise guys are taking NIT underdogs yesterday, they did not pan out so well. Lawrence, that's what I learned last night. What about you?
Well, Teddy, I learned nothing because I'm on a ski trip and I'm barely getting to watch any of these games. I'm literally sitting at dinners on my phone, refreshing my scores. I had a winning night last night, 2-1 for my clients. So that made me happy. I lost. I had the over in the Brooklyn game. Man, they let me down in that fourth quarter. Anyway, just to let you know, brother, not one single person has asked what product you use in your hair. So let's just bring in Tokyo Brandon. How are you, Brandon?
And thanks for having me on.
Did you just give us the peace sign? Is that what?
Yeah.
Is that's
Yeah,
what
it's peace
it's
for
this
everyone.
way. It's this way.
Yeah,
you know?
okay,
We're-
sure, got
I
it.
don't even know
Thanks,
where the
guys.
camera is.
Hey, I've only been
So
skiing
world.
twice this year, but I'd like to. I envy you very much. But skiing in Japan is quite cool as well. But I just went about 2 weeks ago. I think I'm done for the year with skiing though.
Yeah, well, and you know what, Brandon, I hear, and I haven't skied in Japan, but I hear skiing in Japan is amazing. The culture is
Great
phenomenal.
powder, great
The
powder,
hills aren't,
great scenery.
yeah, the
Yeah,
hills aren't that big, but the powder I hear is
no,
incredible. So
exactly,
it
exactly.
is a bucket list. It is a bucket list thing for me, dude. World
Yes,
Baseball Classic is underway. Canada
it is.
looked really good a couple of nights
Uh,
ago in that 55-0 loss.
good and bad.
Don't you wave the white flag? Like, I just, we're
Yeah.
not. Why go through all these innings when you know you're going to lose?
Exactly. So yeah, Baseball Classic is interesting because they do have the mercy rule. So the mercy
Yeah.
rule is if you're down by 15 after 5 innings, it's called. And one game was called. Korea beat China. They were winning 22-2 in the 5th inning, so they called that game. And then if you're winning by 10 after 7, the game is called, which is actually quite advantageous to play totals because many of these totals are coming out 11.5. And if you think the bad team is not going to score an under 11.5, assuming the good team's going to win in the 7th inning has been a winnable play for me in a couple of these games. So it is kind of a cool rule, although I doubt they'll ever adopt it in Major League Baseball.
Look at Dan, man, already with the graphic. He's like, Prez, let's go, man. Keep moving. World
He's like,
Baseball Classic today. We got
tell
Canada.
Brandon to stop talking.
Yeah, exactly. We got Canada playing Mexico. Minus
Yeah.
1.5 for Mexico.
Sure.
How do we bet this game?
So yeah, I'm taking Mexico in this one. Sorry, all of you Canadians, but Canada and Mexico, the pitching discrepancy here is just a little too big. Jose Urquidy is going for Mexico. He's a solid pitcher for the Astros. The offense is pretty equal. Mexico has a few better names, but they're not performing that well. And I think Freddie Freeman might be out for this game. I think he tweaked his hammy yesterday. So I like Mexico a lot here. Canada is starting a guy named, let me see if I can get this, Rob Zastrinzny. And he has 10 innings of Major League Baseball experience, and those innings were not very good. And so I think Mexico is just going to dominate here. So I'm on all over Mexico minus 1.5.
Let's talk about USA and Colombia. What are we going to do
Yes,
with
sir.
this matchup in the World Baseball Classic? I don't even know what the
Yes,
line is.
sir.
Minus
It's,
7.5.
so-
Next time, Teddy, you might want to prepare for the show. Read your
oh,
notes.
come on.
It's up in Slack.
No.
And it is minus 7.5. Take it, Teddy. Take it. You give this shit to me I've been waiting months for you to screw up,
Wait,
which is a compliment to
wait.
you. So take
And
it.
Teddy's,
Brandon, we don't need you any longer. You're not a part of
Yeah.
this right now. Deal
in
with
Teddy's
it, Teddy.
defense,
Just Lawrence. Just here's your FYI. I'm looking at Slack right now. I'm looking at the sheet with Adams' point spreads in there,
Okay.
and Brandon's
I know.
aren't for the USA Colombia
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
And that, my friend, is
They're above.
100% on you.
100% on
Not
me.
50%, not 80%,
On
not
me.
90%.
No. Actually, guys,
100%. That is your job to do before the show started.
totally
so before
disagree,
you throw it back
but-
to me,
But I
suck it
just
up.
want to
It's
say
on
something.
you. Brandon,
I
break down
want
the
to
game.
say
This is like-
something. No,
this is like
Brandon.
Prez showing up
Brandon,
Brandon, break down the game.
Brandon, wait. No, Brandon, wait. I want to read something Teddy just wrote in Slack. Thank you. You saved the show. Now you
I appreciate
can go,
that.
Brandon.
No,
I
I'm just
missed a
kidding.
bunch in the middle there, Teddy. Skipped a bunch of the rest of the stuff.
Also,
Just bookended
and you
your
certainly
comment.
missed the sarcasm in the response. Yes.
Oh,
In Teddy's
that was
defense,
sarcastic?
You think?
I actually put
Go
the,
ahead, Brandon.
Please.
I actually put the -7.5 about 15 minutes before the show, so that's why Teddy didn't catch it.
Which
and
was
the line,
after I put my notes up, Teddy, just for the
That's
record.
right.
But I didn't want to
It's
argue
your job
with
to
you.
Okay.
update the notes.
That's
That's your job. Merrill
Let's
does
talk
it.
about the game.
Merrill's the best, Teddy. You
No,
should do
no.
these shows with Merrill.
If I could, I could.
Brandon.
Tokyo,
So let's talk about the game.
please.
Merrill Kelly is going for the USA. I'm sure you've all heard of him. He's a solid top 20 Major League Baseball starting pitcher. Colombia has been performing rather poorly. They don't have a lot of major leaguers on their roster, and they're putting out Luis de Avila. And he's a minor league pitcher. He's got a 3+ ERA in the minors. And I think the USA is finally finding their swing. I mean, this USA lineup, if you've watched any of the games, it's like Murderer's Row. I mean, it's Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, Kyle Schwarber, Nolan Arenado. I mean, there's no gap. There's no place to take a breath for the pitcher. I think the USA is going to jump all over Luis de Avila here, and I like the -7.5 here. So when you take a -7.5, this is where the mercy rule comes into place. If you think the USA is going to be up by 10 or plus, 10 plus runs in the 7th inning, then the -7.5 is a great play. So I'm taking -7.5 here. I think it was -110 when I put it out. So this is where the mercy rule becomes quite relevant when you're capping the World Baseball Classic. By the way, Japan is taking on Italy. This is going to be the playoff game for Pool B and Pool A. It's going to be a great game, and I'm not going to be at the game, but I was at the game last week where Japan crushed Korea, and I got to see Darvish pitch in that game. So yeah, lots of World Baseball Classic stuff going on, and I'm on a 5-1 run in the World Baseball Classic. So good stuff going on
Nicely done. Nicely done. Guys,
Yeah.
we also have a promo for Brandon, and
Yes.
trust me,
Yes.
when we give out these promos, you take advantage of them. He's as good as they get. Brandon, it's $699, and people get your Japanese and Korean baseball seasons. You want
And
to tell
Major
everybody
League.
how you... Okay, well... Oh, and MLB. All of it. The whole... Every
all of it.
single baseball play
Yes.
except your World Baseball Classic. No, it's probably
Correct.
included in there.
It is
Tell us
included, but it's
why
halfway
people
over.
should... I know I was kidding. Tell us why people should buy that package.
They should buy that package because I'm the number 2 all-time lifetime baseball capper at WagerTalk, and I was the number 1 all sports profit capper last year. So most of that is due to baseball. If you read my bio on WagerTalk.com, you'd know I used to be a capper for one of the Major League Baseball teams here in. I capped I
A
scouted.
scout.
Yeah, I was a scout for one of the Major League Baseball teams, and I scouted Japanese, Korean, and Taiwanese baseball for them. So that's where I got my beginning. Baseball is my strongest sport, and yeah, the whole package for $6.99 is pretty good because I was plus 150 units in all of my baseball plays last year. So you'll make your money back quickly.
Brilliant. Tokyo Brandon, everybody. Guys, we're not going to have a commercial break. We're going to go straight to the daily presidential address. And then
Thanks, guys.
I'm going to introduce Art, give him some love, and disappear. Teddy will take over for the rest of the show. Daniel, cue it up, brother. Guys, I told you all yesterday, last week was the worst betting week I've had in over a year. I think I went 2-13 in college basketball over a 15 play period. It was as bad as I've ever done. I mean, I cannot remember having a week as bad as last week. We came out of it on Saturday and won Saturday, one Sunday, one Tuesday, one Wednesday. Will win Wednesday because Wednesday hasn't happened yet. Perfect time to be playing my plays. I've got one NHL side money line play going up for today. I'm on a 13-4 run in NHL money line plays, and I have one NBA total, which is pretty much my best plays so all year long. My NBA total plays are on a 28-9 run, and I'm not kidding with you guys. I'm 70% on the season in NBA totals. So I got two NBA plays tonight, one total, one NHL play. It's all over at WagerTalk. Please take advantage of that. As for some hockey plays, look, I went to last night. I wanted to release the Toronto Maple Leafs. They were minus 154. I thought it was too high. I thought the value was not there. I woke up this morning. It is now minus 142. I love the Toronto Maple Leafs in the spot. It's not a homer play. If you guys have been following me for years in hockey, one of the trends that I look at regularly is taking the Toronto Maple Leafs after they lose to a bad or mediocre team. They just lost to the Buffalo Sabres 4-3 in their last game. And now I want them to play as good a team as possible at home in their next game. And that's where this spot is. So Toronto Maple Leafs minus 142 is a play. And I also like over the total in the St. Louis and Minnesota Wild game. That's it for me. I will be back on the show tomorrow. Arthur DiCesare joining us now. Teddy, Art, I'm going to leave the show to you boys. Theodore, take over, my brother.
Have a nice day, Lawrence. We will stick around here on Wager Talk today and bring in from the Westgate Superbook Risk Management Supervisor, Arthur DiCesare at ArtDice21 on Twitter. And Art, a friend of the show, and I'm sure a guy who's pretty busy this week. How are things at the Westgate Superbook right now? Are you feeling the buzz? Is the hype there? Are the crowds there? Or is this kind of the calm before the storm?
Teddy, it's kind of the calm before the storm, but we'll get a lot tonight. Tonight we'll be very busy. We'll have lines. We'll have a lot of people signing up for the app. Wednesday, people really start to flock in. Not that there wasn't buzz in the sportsbook yesterday, but Wednesday you really start to see it. And listen, I love the NCAA tournament. I love college basketball. This is a busy week, but it's a very fun week.
It sure is. And I want to start right here and pick your brain. Who are the pros betting? Who are the Joes betting? And who do you like when it comes to these first round matchups? And let's go in that order. Start with the pros. Where are we seeing the wise guy action come in these first round games? Or I don't know, is it first round, second round? I don't even know. In these round of 64 games.
Yeah, sure. So I just want to touch on the game of the night, the 11-11 game, ASU Nevada. We opened ASU minus 1.5. It's now 2.5. So seen some good money come in on the Sun Devils. Couple of games to touch on for the round of 64. West Virginia and Maryland. Sharps have been on the under. We had the total as high as 140.5. Total is now 137.5. And then an interesting 7-10 game, which has a Mountain West team in it. So kind of a West Coast feel. A lot of people around here know the Mountain West. Boise State and Northwestern. We actually opened Boise as a 1-point favorite. That did not last. Quickly went to pick. And now we are Northwestern minus 1.5. So a lot of sharp action came in on Northwestern. Those are the two that have jumped out to me. As far as the public goes and the people who are going to take shots, that always is going to be money lines, right? So the three that I've seen that have attracted the most money line bets. Number 12, Charleston at plus 190. Number 12, VCU, plus 165. And number 11, NC State, plus 185. Those are all outright money line wins because obviously we get a lot of upsets in these first rounds.
Now, Dave Sherapin was on the show yesterday. Great info from Arthur DiCesare. And we had Sherapin on the show yesterday, and he talked about the flow of the opening weekend. and I want to ask if his opinion is the same as your opinion. He's like, Thursday, Friday, we're not that worried. We're going to win some decisions. We're going to lose some decisions. The public does all right. It's over the weekend, the Saturday, Sunday, the round of 32 games where the public really starts to get bombed and we start to win some of the bigger decisions. Has that been your experience at the Westgate Superbook and at previous stops? Or is that something that is, that's been his experience, but it's not something that's more universal?
No, I think that's pretty spot on. And listen, I always tell people this tournament, obviously the sharp bettors bet college basketball the whole season. To me, college basketball throughout the regular season is a sharp sport. But once we get to the NCAA tournament, it's all public people. It's all public money. It's all people coming in to have fun. I always make the joke, my mother has bets on the NCAA tournament. She's got a bracket. You know what I mean? Like everybody's kind of tuned in to what's going on over these next couple of weeks. So we know that there's going to be plenty of money lines and plenty of, things of that nature that we got to sweat out. But in the end, with the volume and all the public money that's in and all the parlays and parlay cards and teasers and all the things that are going to be part of this, in the end, there's really nothing that we sweat out too bad for these first couple of rounds.
So are you a bracket guy? Do you look at the brackets? Do you fill out brackets? Because we had a little discussion on yesterday's show, and I'm like, I don't look at brackets. I'll fill out one. I'll probably fill out one or two before I go to sleep tonight, just for fun. But I don't care what the seedings are. Is that something that you guys pay attention to in the back room? Is that something that you do personally? Is it about seeding or is it about point spreads?
Well, I mean, listen, I fill out a bracket. I'm a red-blooded American male. I think we all fill out brackets. They're fun to do. It takes me back to when I was 11. I love to fill out a bracket.
Sure.
But you're right. It is all about the seedings. It's all about the matchups. And when you just look at, like, the comparison of the committee and Vegas, you can see some, ways where we're off, like Kansas State, who's a 3 seed. We have them like 6th or 7th to win their region. So there are some things where you can find some of these disparities. So for us, we obviously stay to our power numbers and all those type of things. And we're not too worried about what the seeds are. You can kind of throw them out as far as us making lines and us making odds to win certain things.
So I want to ask you just a couple more questions about the dance, and then we'll take a look at some of the games, some actual information for tonight. But when it comes to the dance, number one, you're filling out brackets. Who do you got winning it all or going to the Final Four? Give us some thoughts about who you think is going to survive in advance. And how about an opinion from you on a first-round matchup? Who does Arthr DiCesare like to get out of the first round and cover a point spread while doing so?
So I'm a little bit of a homer, but I do have UConn winning it all. I like UConn coming out of that very tough West region. I think UConn can get it done. I think they'll have a little tricky first round matchup with Rick Pitino and Iona, even though he might be 1 foot out the door looking at St. John's. But I think if UConn plays to their ability, I think they can win it all. As far as a first round matchup that I like, anytime I can fade Rick Barnes and Tennessee, I'm happy to do it. Rick Barnes is terrible in the tournament. He's a wonderful regular season coach, but he does nothing in March. So I actually like Louisiana, and it's actually gone up. We had it like 10.5, 11, and we're now dealing a 12. So if I can get 12, I'm not saying sprinkle the money line, but I think 12's too many. I think they stay within that number against Tennessee. So I would take Louisiana plus 12.
The Raging Cajuns could be live dogs in an opening round matchup, says Arthr DiCesare, risk management supervisor over at the Westgate. At ArtDice21 on Twitter, he is an excellent follow. Art, let's shift our focus. And I hate to shift our focus away from the big dance, but we can only talk so much big dance. And I think you've given us a decent assessment on the state of the markets, where the wise guys are playing, who the Joes are playing, who you like, et cetera, et cetera. Let's talk a little actual info for tonight. Then we have 2 play-in games tonight as well as NIT. What are you seeing on the college basketball board? Who do the pros like? Who do the Joes like for Wednesday's college hoops action?
Yeah, like I said, I already mentioned that ASU Nevada game. That's obviously a game in a playing game where we've seen love. I know you broke down all these NIT teams at home. who have been covering and doing their thing. I'll say this, there wasn't a ton of action on the NIT yesterday, which I was a little surprised by because obviously you only have the two playing games and, you got NBA and you got the NHL going on. That could change today. I mean, nothing to me has really stood out for us where it's been anything where it's like, oh, this is a big decision for the NIT tonight. But I think with more people coming into town tonight, we'll probably see a bigger handle as far as the NIT games go for this evening compared to yesterday.
And how about let's talk a little NHL for this evening. What are you seeing in the NHL? And again, the same basic question. Pros, Joes, Art. Who likes what?
Well, I heard Prez say it in his presidential breakdown, the Maple Leafs, and the Maple Leaf number has actually come down a lot for us. So we've been taking some love for the Avalanche. Avalanche have been getting a little bit of love on the road. We're dealing minus 130, plus 120 right now. So if you do like the Leafs, this is probably a chance to get them at their best price. And then the Islanders, who are actually on a back-to-back, they played the Kings last night. Not playing a good Duck team, but people like to take shots with these home underdogs. So actually a little bit of love for the Ducks tonight at home. Despite the Islanders being a better team, it's the Islanders on the back-to-back that is drawing the money to Anaheim.
New York Islanders taking money in NHL action tonight. A couple of weeks ago, I was on WagerTalk Today, and I said I love this time of year for betting the NBA. Like the tournament, the big dance, and the little dances suck all the oxygen out of the room, and you can just find these teams and ride them for weeks on end. And now I'm 13-2 with my last 15 NBA. It's been pretty good over the last couple of weeks. We're seeing things fairly clearly. Do people beat the NBA at this time of year? Do people bet the NBA this time of year? And who do you like? Who are you seeing in terms of attracting betting market support in the association for tonight?
Yeah, Teddy, you definitely see it. And, I know guys like you who are in from day one, they never leave the NBA. They're going to bet it. And I know that, the NCAA tournament and college basketball takes everyone's focus away right now. But, that's always the old, oh, well, the bookmakers aren't focusing on the other sports. They're going to be looser lines and things of that nature. I mean, that's not really true, but I think people feel that way sometimes. But we still get plenty of NBA handle. I've said this for years on this show. The NBA draws so much attention in our sports book. As far as tonight goes, you have a marquee matchup as far as the Sixers and the Cavs. Sixers have been very hot in people's minds these last couple of weeks, so a little bit of Sixer love has come in. And then the Celtics, despite their up and downs, because they've been up and down, -5 on the road against Minnesota. So Celtic love is always going to be there no matter what goes on. But that's public love for the Celtics. That's not really sharp love.
Yeah, Minnesota has not played well at home lately. Nonetheless, I think there could be some value with the T-Wolves down the stretch for their backers. Arthur DiCesare, great stuff. Love having you on the show every week. You are a genuine benefit, value added to WagerTalk Today. Tell folks what's going on in your life, how they can find you. Tell folks what's going on at the Westgate this weekend, because I know there's lots of people coming to town that may want to come and say hi.
Yeah, very busy weekend. And Teddy, listen, it's always a pleasure to come on with you guys. And it's nice when it's just you and I, and we don't have to deal with press. That's a nice thing. But yeah, listen, guys, something I didn't mention as well. We do a little, first kind of rounds Thursday and Friday, little mini contest at the Superbook can come down like we do with all our contests. $100 entry up to 3 entries. So you can come down. Obviously, today would be the day you'd want to come down and get that filled out. And if anyone has any questions about something like that, or all the prop packets we have, anything that you need, you come down, you ask Arthur DiCesare, and I'll be more than happy to help you with whatever you need.
We really appreciate your time and effort. Last question, and before I let you go, Art, World Baseball Classic. We had Brandon Siefkin talking about earlier, Tokyo Brandon. He's handicapping it. You guys taking any action on that? Is it real light? Talk to me about the World Baseball Classic.
We're definitely taking action on it today. Obviously for us, and we always have this conversation, know your house rules when you bet. For us, with all these blowout and mercy rule games, when those things happen, run line and total get refunded. So only your money line gets paid on those shortened games. That's for us at the Westgate Superbook. So, obviously with a lot of those things going on, that's been frustrating for some customers, but it's there. It's in our stipulations. It's on our sheets. It's in our house rules. But yeah, we've definitely been taking some action on it, especially on the USA games, which that's no surprise.
Know your rules before you bet. That is the sports betting 101 from Art DiCesare. Thank you for your time, Art. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week. And now, before we leave today, I've got a big game breakdown. Let's get into it. Dan? It is time for today's big game. We've talked gel and World Baseball Classic on today's show. We're going to talk some NBA. The NBA's been rolling 13-2 with the last 15, 61%, just shy of 61% over 250 plus sides and totals over the last 13 months. It's been pretty good. Let's see what we can do tonight. Chicago and Sacramento. Looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, I'm seeing the Kings, let's call it -1 right now. This game has seen two-way action this morning. Chicago money earlier. Now we're seeing money back for Sacramento. Total sitting 237. And all of a sudden, after many people wrote them off completely, we've seen back-to-back wins for the Bulls. And we're seeing positive quotes from Chicago for the first time in I don't know how long. Patrick Beverley has made a difference for that team. He was huge in the fourth quarter against the Rockets the other night. Zach LaVine, who hasn't really said nice things about anyone this year. Quote, energy, heart, toughness, vocal. He gets us going. You can see how much he cares about winning and his teammates. We definitely needed someone like that. Might be a little buy sign on the Bulls right here. For Sacramento, look, this team has overachieved all year long. They've made their backers a ton of money. There's a fairly big betting bandwagon on the Kings at this stage of the campaign. And they're coming off a game in which, look, they gave up 80.5 the other night to snap their winning streak, their extended winning streak. I worry about a team that just snapped their winning streak and now has to hit the highway against a foe that's playing better. I think the Kings are due. You don't want to say due too often. Kings are due for a little setback here. I think the Bulls win this game. Give me Chicago. Take them +1. You take them on the money line. But I think this is a game. Chicago Bulls find a way to win. There's your big game breakdown. And that's going to wrap it for the Wednesday edition of Wager Talk Today. That's all we got. I want to thank all of our guests. I want to thank all of you out there in viewerland for taking time out of your busy day to spend with us here on Wager Talk TV. We'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and then, you guys know what to do. Enjoy the games, and best of luck with all of your wagers.
Play ball. Hot off the press, handicappers from WagerTalk, Sports Memo, and the Gold Sheet have collaborated on the 2023 WagerTalk Media MLB Betting Guide. From World Series odds to regular season win totals and everything in between, this year's betting guide features previews on all 30 teams, all 6 divisions, and season-long awards like the Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year.